Hello and welcome to Electric Focus. And Tesla have recently announced some big price drops across the globe. And in the UK, we've seen prices drop from up to £8,000 depending on the model that you're choosing. So is it now the right time to buy an electric vehicle? Well, let's get into the video and find out. So Tesla announced some really big price drops right across the globe recently, and in the UK we've seen prices drop up to £8,000 depending on the model that is chosen. For the entry level Model Y, which last year was the third best selling car of all cars in the UK, with over 35,500 sold. Now that entry level model now is £44,990, and that's a £7,000 price drop on the previous price. So if you had one delivered last year, you might be a little bit disgruntled at that. But what Tesla have said is anybody who has placed an order and not had it delivered yet will benefit from these new prices. The Tesla Model 3 has now dropped to £42,990. This is starting from these prices, and that's a £5,500 drop in price. So what's the reason for the price drops? Well, Tesla was saying that it's actually down to improvements in supply chain. Therefore, they are not having some of the constraints they've had before, which push their prices up. So really what we're talking about here is a kind of price correction, because prices went up initially because of problems with supply, and now they're coming down because supply has improved. So that makes sense. So it's a great time to buy a Tesla, but also the charging infrastructure in the UK for Tesla is really good as well. There's over 100 supercharger hubs, there's over 1,000 destination charges, and don't forget, Teslas can use the rest of the network as well. And with the Tesla Model Y and Tesla Model 3 both having CCS connectors, it opens up a lot of charging opportunities for Tesla drivers. Of course, Teslas aren't the only car out there, and there's plenty of other models. What we are seeing is some improvements in supply chain movement with some of the manufacturers. We're still seeing some long waits on others, so I'm not sure we'll see any reductions there, but we are seeing a reduction in prices on the second-hand market. So again, a good time to start looking for an electric car in a second-hand market. So perhaps a good time to buy an EV, but what about running costs of an EV? And we're talking about the UK specifically here. In the UK, we've seen electricity prices increase significantly, and we're going to see another increase in April next year. So electricity prices are certainly creeping up, and petrol prices have been high for quite some time now, but they have been coming down more recently. So is it still more expensive to run a petrol and diesel car against an electric car? Well, I've done a video on that, and I'll put a link in it in the comments below. So please have a look at the details. And in that video, I talk about it depends. It depends on many factors. It depends on whether you can charge at home or whether you have to charge out on the go. It depends on whether you've got some cheaper charging available with an overnight tariff like I have. So there's lots of factors that come into that. But I can tell you now that it's still significantly cheaper to run an electric vehicle compared to a petrol and diesel car. So have a look at that video to get the details of that. What about charging infrastructure? Well, we've seen lots of news out there about problems with queuing, particularly over Christmas in the UK, where there was a big headline about the Tesla chargers at this particular place that were queuing up. And certainly we're seeing busier chargers. If you see some of the videos where I've done some long journeys recently, you're seeing chargers being very busy at hubs particularly. And last year though, alone in the UK, there were 30% more chargers installed. And actually when it comes to ultra fast charging, there was an 80% increase in ultra fast charging, with a further 100 new hubs delivered in the UK. And charge point operators are spending millions and millions of pounds improving the infrastructure across the globe, and that's only going to continue. You just have to look at the headlines. Recently, for example, Mercedes announced that they are going to install 10,350 kilowatt chargers by 2030 across the globe. So that's a massive commitment, and we're seeing big commitments from other companies as well. So is it the right time to buy an EV right now? Well, certainly with those price reductions in Tesla, there's certainly a good time to buy a Tesla. And there's also some great models coming to market when you look at things like the MG4 at an entry-level price of £28,000. Prices are coming down. So it's a good time to be looking at buying an EV in terms of price cost for buying an EV. When it comes to the cost of running an EV, it's still cheaper to run an EV than a petrol and diesel car. And then when it comes to the charging infrastructure, particularly if you haven't got charging at home, well, that's increasing all the time. It's probably more important that it's the reliability of the network that needs to be worked on. And with all technology, it does take time for technology to settle down and get more reliable. But I think reliability will be driven by competition, because you need customers to come and use chargers to get your return on the investment. The more they're using them, the more you can pay down in investment. And investment is significant when it comes to high powered charging particularly. So all the CPOs will want to drive people to their chargers for them to be used. So they'll all be working really hard on improving the reliability of chargers for everybody. So it should only get better and better, but let's see what happens over the next year or so. So anyway, that's what I think at the moment, but what do you think? Put your comments below. I'm sure there'll be a lot of debate on this one, but for now, thank you for watching as always, and please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help, and I will speak to you soon.